My school didn't let us bring our own lunch and would pat us down at the door to throw out any food they found, with the cafeteria only serving lunch at 10:30 a.m. and the vending machines shut off at noon because the principal said too many people were distracted by them. When my diabetic friend Baxter's blood sugar dropped to 41 in biology class and his monitor started beeping while he slumped over his desk, the teacher refused to let him leave during lab time. Even after I explained he could die at 30, my school didn't let us bring our own lunch. Didn't matter if you were diabetic or had special allergies, you were patted down and your backpack was combed through upon entering, and food found would be thrown out. We only had lunch once per day at 10:30, and even more ridiculous, the vending machines would be shut off at 12. The principal claimed too many people were distracted by it. Never occurred to him the reason might have been because of how hungry we were. My buddy Baxter was diabetic. The nurse kept some juice in her office for him, but she left at 2 p.m. sharp every day. That's when Gary, the maintenance guy, became our hero. He'd seen Baxter getting shaky during 7th period one Friday and asked if he was okay. When Baxter explained about his diabetes and the food rules, Gary just shook his head. "My daughter's type 1, he said. This is dangerous." The next Friday, I noticed something weird. The vending machines were still glowing at 2:30. Gary walked by with his mop bucket and said loudly to no one, "Definitely gonna unplug those machines after lunch like I'm supposed to." Then he winked at us. Word spread carefully among trusted kids. Every Friday, Gary would forget to unplug them. We developed a system where someone would watch for administrators while others bought food. Baxter could finally get juice when he needed it, instead of rationing the nurse's limited supply. We thought we had it figured out. Baxter even stopped carrying his emergency glucose tablets as much because he knew Fridays were safe. The principal never checked on Fridays anyway, since he always left early for district meetings. For 2 months, this system worked perfectly, until the Wednesday, everything went wrong. It started with an announcement at 9:30 a.m. The cafeteria and the vending machines are shut off immediately for emergency health inspection. No food service today. No explanation, nothing. Just hundreds of kids who'd eaten nothing now expected to wait until dismissal. By 2 p.m. in biology, Baxter was sweating. I knew the signs. His hands were shaking as he tried to take notes. "You good?" I whispered. "I'm at 62 and dropping." He showed me his glucose monitor. "I need sugar. Now." The nurse was already gone. The vending machines were definitely unplugged since it was Wednesday. His emergency tablets were in his gym locker across the building because he'd gotten complacent with Gary's Friday help. "Mrs. Squelch," I raised my hand. "Baxter needs to go to the nurse." She didn't even look up. "No one leaves during lab time. He can wait 20 minutes. Baxter's monitor beeped. 54th. His hands were shaking too hard to hold his pencil. "Mrs. Squelch, he's diabetic. He needs—" I said no. I watched my best friend's eyes start to glaze over. His monitor beeped again. 48. At 40, he could have a seizure. At 30, he could die. I didn't think. I just ran. Mrs. Squelch yelled after me, but I was already in the hall, sprinting to the vending machines. They were dark, unplugged. I grabbed a desk chair and smashed it into the glass. The crash was tremendous. Glass everywhere. I grabbed some Skittles and a regular Coke, my hands bleeding from the glass, and ran back. The assistant principal was already running toward the noise, but I didn't care. I burst into biology. Baxter was slumped over, barely conscious. His monitor read 41. I ripped open the Skittles and forced it to him. "Come on, eat. Please eat." He managed a few bites, then more. His eyes started to focus. The assistant principal stormed in with the school resource officer. "That's destruction of property. That's suspension. That's saving his life," I said, watching Baxter's color return. Mrs. Squelch went pale when she saw his glucose monitor. The assistant principal pulled out his walkie-talkie to call the principal, but he wasn't answering. He'd already left for his Wednesday golf game, which everyone knew about, but no one was supposed to mention. My parents were called immediately. The principal came back furious about his interrupted golf game and the destroyed vending machine, but Baxter's mom arrived first, and she was scarier. She was a pediatric endocrinologist. "Let me understand this," she said, deadly calm. "You ban all outside food. You serve lunch at 10:30 a.m. You lock vending machines at noon. The nurse leaves at 2. And you think this is safe for diabetic students?" The principal stuttered about policies and procedures. "My son's blood sugar was 41, she continued. "At that level, he could have had a seizure. He could have gone into a coma. He could have died." Other parents started arriving. Turns out Baxter wasn't the only kid with medical dietary needs being ignored. The principal kept insisting I'd face consequences for vandalism. Baxter's mom laughed. "Sue him. I dare you. See how that plays in the news." Friday morning, I was serving in-school suspension when my phone buzzed. Text from Baxter. "Cafeteria closed again. Health department here. My mom's now coming with lawyers and wants you here. Please come." I knew this was about to get crazy. I stared at my phone, reading Baxter's text again. The ISS supervisor, Mr. Daniels, was reading a newspaper and didn't notice. My hands started sweating. Baxter's mom with lawyers meant this was serious. Real serious. I raised my hand. "Can I use the bathroom?" Mr. Daniels barely looked up. 5 minutes. I walked out calmly, then broke into a run once I turned the corner. The cafeteria was at the other end of the building, and I could already hear voices echoing down the hall. Adult voices. Angry ones. When I peeked around the cafeteria door, I saw health inspectors in white coats taking pictures of everything. Baxter stood with his mom near the serving line. 3 people in suits wrote notes on yellow pads. Had to be the lawyers. "Get back to ISS, someone said behind me. The assistant principal, but her voice didn't have its usual edge. "Baxter's mom asked for me," I said. She sighed. "Fine, but you come right back after." The rest of the morning dragged. I kept checking my phone under my desk. Baxter sent updates. They found mouse droppings. Mom's getting angrier. Principal just showed up and started yelling. At lunch, which was just packaged crackers since the cafeteria was closed, Mr. Daniels let me eat in the ISS room. Through the window, I watched parents arriving. More cars kept pulling into the parking lot. Something big was building. Finally, at 3 p.m., Mr. Daniels looked at the clock. "You're done. Don't get in trouble again." I practically ran to the cafeteria. The scene inside was even crazier than this morning. Baxter's mom stood in the middle of everything with 3 lawyers around her. Health inspectors were still there, now with tablets and cameras. And there by the door, in his gray work uniform, stood Gary. I'd heard through the grapevine they'd suspended him yesterday for keeping the vending machines on. Baxter's mom saw me and waved me over. "This is him," she told the lawyers. "The hero who saved my son." Hero? I didn't feel like one. I just felt scared for my friend. One of the lawyers, a woman with sharp eyes and a tight bun, turned to me. Tell me everything about Wednesday. Don't leave anything out. So I did. I told her about Baxter's shaking hands in biology, how his glucose monitor beeped at 48 then 41, how Mrs. Squelch wouldn't let him leave even when I explained he was diabetic. She said no one leaves during lab time, I explained. Even when I told her he could die, the lawyer wrote fast. And the nurse? Gone. She always leaves at 2 p.m. The vending machines? Unplugged. They only work until noon, except Fridays when Gary would secretly keep them on. Gary nodded from across the room. The lawyer looked at him, then back at me. So you broke the glass? I didn't think about it. I just did it. His monitor said 41. At 40, he could have a seizure. At 30, I stopped. We all knew what happened at 30. The head health inspector walked over to Baxter's mom with his tablet. Ma'am, you need to see this. We all crowded around. The screen showed their inspection results. Failed, failed, failed. Every single line was red. This cafeteria hasn't passed a real inspection in 3 years, he said. They've been filing false reports. He swiped to show pictures. Black mold covered the back wall of the kitchen. A box of milk said 2019. Mouse droppings covered the storage shelves. This is why it kept closing, I said, finally understanding. Not for emergency inspections. They were trying to hide this. The principal stormed in right then with the superintendent behind him. His face was red and sweaty from running. This is a witch hunt, he yelled at Baxter's mom. You're trying to destroy this school because your son... She pulled out her phone and hit play. The principal's own voice filled the room. These diabetic kids need to stop being so dramatic. They can just deal with it like everyone else. The recording was from last month's parent meeting. I remembered Baxter telling me about it, how his mom had been furious. The principal's face went from red to white. The superintendent took a step away from him. That's taken out of context, the principal stammered. The context, Baxter's mom said coldly, is that my son almost died. More parents started arriving. I recognized one mom. Her daughter had severe peanut allergies and had been hospitalized twice this year from bad cafeteria food. She carried a thick folder of medical records. Then another dad walked in. The whole room went quiet. Everyone knew about his older daughter. She died at another school 2 years ago. Same kind of rules. Same kind of neglect. He held up a framed photo of a girl who looked just like his son from our grade. Her name was Destiny. She was 13. The lawyers started writing faster. Gary walked over to me and showed his phone. Look at this. A group text with 12 other maintenance workers from different district schools. There's something really strange about a school that searches kids for food like they're entering a prison. I wonder what happened to make them create such extreme rules. Gary keeping those vending machines on every Friday seems risky for a maintenance worker, especially if they were all outside, ready to come in and tell what they knew about safety violations. We've been talking for months, Gary said quietly. After what happened to Baxter, we decided enough was enough. The superintendent tried to leave, but one of the lawyers stepped in front of him. Sir, this is now a federal disability discrimination case. The ADA requires you to provide reasonable accommodations for students with medical conditions. You might want to stay. He sat back down, pulling out his phone to text frantically. A school board member arrived, Mrs. Chen, who I recognized from her campaign posters. She pulled the principal aside, but we could all hear pieces of their conversation. Multiple lawsuits, criminal negligence charges. Knew about this for years. The principal kept saying he just followed district policy, but Mrs. Chen pulled out her phone and showed him something. His face went even paler. These are emails, she said louder now, not caring who heard. You got safety warnings. You ignored them. You marked them as resolved without doing anything. At 5:30, they called an emergency assembly. The whole school packed into the auditorium. Parents filled the back rows. The superintendent stood at the podium, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Effective immediately, he said. The principal is taking administrative leave while we investigate these serious allegations. Some kids started whispering. A few parents clapped. The assistant principal took the microphone next. She looked scared but determined. Starting tomorrow, the vending machines will operate all day. Students may bring their own lunches. We'll have food trucks in the parking lot until the cafeteria passes inspection. The room erupted. Kids cheered. Parents nodded. I saw a girl crying with relief, but I kept watching the principal, standing in the corner. He stared at me with pure hatred, like this was all my fault, like Baxter almost dying was less important than his career. Saturday morning, I got to school early to help set up the food trucks. News vans were already there. Channel 7, Channel 4, even CNN. Reporters talked to parents while cameras rolled. Baxter's mom stood in front of the main entrance, perfectly composed despite probably not sleeping. Jefferson High has systematically violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, she told the cameras. They've endangered children with medical conditions. My son's blood sugar dropped to 41 while his principal played golf. This isn't just negligence, it's criminal. Gary stood behind her in his work uniform. A reporter asked him why he helped students. My daughter has type 1 diabetes, he said simply. I know what it's like to worry every day if your kid will come home safe. These children were dying slowly, and nobody cared. I did what any parent would do. By noon, the food trucks were serving real food. I watched kids eat like they hadn't seen food in months, which honestly wasn't far from the truth. Baxter checked his blood sugar after eating a proper meal. 95. Perfect. A girl brought her own lunch for the first time all year without fear of it being thrown away. She showed me her EpiPen. I can actually carry this now instead of hoping the nurse has one. Kids kept coming up to thank me, but it felt weird. I didn't want to be a hero. I just wanted my friend to not die. Monday afternoon, I was in chemistry when the new intercom system crackled. Please send the following student to the principal's office. My name, of course. But when I got there, the assistant principal, now interim principal, didn't look angry. She looked tired but hopeful. I want you to join a new student safety committee, she said. We need students who aren't afraid to speak up when something's wrong. Only if Baxter can join too, I said. And Gary, she smiled slightly, already invited them. Wednesday morning brought more news. The state announced they were investigating all district food policies. 17 schools had the same dangerous rules. The same company ran all their cafeterias. The same violations appeared everywhere. Baxter's mom's lawyers were now representing families from all 17 schools. The lawsuit grew from a local issue to a state crisis. Friday came with a different kind of drama. The principal returned to clean out his office, escorted by security. I was walking to English when we passed in the hall. He stopped and looked at me. You ruined my career over some candy bars. I met his eyes. Baxter almost died. You ruined your own career. Security already moved him along, but he kept looking back at me with that same hatred. That afternoon, good news finally. Gary was back at work, officially this time, but not just as maintenance. His new title, Student Health Advocate. The district created the position just for him, with a raise and an office near the nurse. He set up a medical station with glucose tablets, EpiPens, inhalers, and other emergency supplies. Everything a kid might need fast, no questions asked. It's not perfect, he told me while organizing supplies, but it's a start. Monday rolled around with another surprise. Mrs. Squelch pulled me aside after biology. I need to apologize, she said. I was so focused on following rules that I forgot why I became a teacher. To help kids, not hurt them. She opened her desk drawer. It was full of juice boxes, glucose tablets, and granola bars. I know the warning signs now, she continued. I've studied every medical condition my students have. It won't happen again. I wanted to stay angry at her, but she looked genuinely broken by what almost happened. Wednesday was our first safety committee meeting. I expected maybe 5 kids. 12 showed up. We sat in a circle and started listing every dangerous rule. No water bottles during tests, even 3-hour standardized ones. No bathroom breaks without a pass, even for kids with medical conditions. Emergency exits locked during school hours. The list went on and on. The interim principal took notes on everything. We'll address each one, she promised. Friday night was the school board meeting. The room was packed with parents. Standing room only. Local news cameras lined the walls. A letter from the district's insurance company got read first. They would drop coverage unless all safety violations were fixed immediately. No negotiation. Fix it or lose insurance, which meant the school would have to close. For once, parents who usually fought about everything agreed. Fix it. Now a student stood up during public comment. His dad stood beside him for support. My sister Destiny was 13, he said, his voice shaking. She was in math class at another school with the same rules. Her blood sugar crashed during state testing. The teacher wouldn't let her eat her glucose tablets because of test security. She had a seizure. She went into a coma. She never woke up. The room was completely silent. A few parents were crying. Every rule that keeps kids from food or medicine is a potential murder, he continued. You all have blood on your hands. He sat down. Nobody applauded. It was too heavy for that, but everyone understood. Saturday morning, the board voted unanimously. All food restriction policies ended immediately, district-wide. 3 administrators who knew about violations but covered them up were fired. The cafeteria company's contract was terminated. People clapped this time, but Baxter's mom stood up. This is a start, she said, but the lawsuit continues until we see real, permanent change. Not promises. Change. Monday brought news that spread through school like lightning. The principal had tried to get a job in another district, but Baxter's mom's lawyers contacted them with information about the criminal investigation. His job offer vanished the same day. He's radioactive, Baxter told me at lunch. No district will touch him now. Wednesday, things got more serious. The state attorney general's office started a criminal investigation. We all got letters saying we might be called as witnesses, but the real shock came when they revealed why the principal fought so hard to keep the current food company. He was getting kickbacks. Money in his account every month that matched what the company saved by serving garbage food. I knew it, Gary said when he heard. The math never made sense. Good food doesn't cost that much more than what they served. Friday, I sat in a small room with 2 investigators. They recorded everything. I told them about the vending machines turning off at noon, the nurse leaving at 2, the principal's golf schedule that everyone knew but couldn't mention, kids fainting from hunger, Baxter rationing his glucose supplies, another student hiding rice cakes in her saxophone case. They asked about Gary too, but I made sure they understood. He was the only adult who tried to help. He risked his job every Friday to keep kids safe. He's a hero, I said. The principal is the criminal. Monday evening, we watched the news at Baxter's house. Breaking news tonight. 5 district officials arrested in food service fraud scheme. They showed the principal being walked out of his house in handcuffs. Then 4 others we didn't recognize. District administrators who'd been stealing from the food budget for years. That's why our cafeteria was so bad, Baxter's mom said. They took the money meant for food and maintenance. The principal's lawyer appeared on screen, claiming his client just followed orders from higher up. But then they showed emails where the principal organized the whole scheme. Wednesday brought our new principal. Dr. Williams walked into her first assembly with confidence. She was younger than the old principal, with kind eyes and a slight limp. My son has type 1 diabetes, she said as her opening. He's 8, so I understand what you've been through. She laid out new rules, simple ones. If you need to eat, eat. I'm really curious about how the principal thought he could hide those kickbacks from the food company. Did he really think nobody would notice the bad food was connected to extra money in his account? The way, doctor, if you need medicine, take it. If you need help, ask. Your health comes before any rule, any test, any class. Period. Kids actually applauded a principal. That was a first. Friday was almost normal. The new cafeteria was open. Turned out another company could renovate it in just 3 days when properly motivated. Real food, multiple options, an allergy-free section for kids with restrictions. The vending machines hummed all day. The nurse worked until 5 p.m. now. It felt like a different school, but not everything was better. Monday morning, Baxter wasn't at his locker. I found him in the bathroom, sitting on the floor against the wall, shaking. His glucose monitor showed 98, totally normal, but he was crying and couldn't catch his breath. Hey, what's wrong? I sat down next to him on the gross bathroom floor. I can't stop shaking, he said between gasps. My brain thinks I'm dying, but my blood sugar is fine. My therapist says it's PTSD. I didn't know what to say. We sat there until the shaking stopped, missing first period completely. Nobody came looking for us. The new rules meant students could take care of themselves without permission slips. Wednesday afternoon, Gary started something new, a support group for kids with medical conditions. We met in the old detention room. Seemed fitting somehow. 15 kids showed up. There was the girl with the peanut allergy, a boy with epilepsy, a girl who needed insulin shots. Kids I'd never known were struggling because they'd hidden it so well. We all survived something we shouldn't have had to survive, Gary said. Now we help each other. We went around the circle, sharing our worst moments. The boy with epilepsy talked about having a seizure during PE, while the teacher yelled at him to stop faking. The girl with diabetes showed scars from where she'd hidden insulin needles in her socks. Everyone had stories. Friday, Mrs. Squelch surprised us all. She asked to be our support group advisor. I need to make this right, she told us. Then she turned to Baxter in front of the whole biology class. I will regret not helping you for the rest of my life. I'm sorry. Baxter nodded but didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't okay, but at least she was trying. 2 weeks passed with a weird kind of normal. Then Monday morning brought news that made everything real again. The principal's criminal trial was starting. Baxter had to testify first. His hands shook as he sat in the witness chair, describing how his brain started shutting down, how he knew he might die because of a vending machine rule. I remember thinking my mom would find me dead at school, he said. The jury looked sick. Tuesday was my turn. The defense lawyer tried to make me look violent for breaking the vending machine. You destroyed school property, he said. To save a life, I answered. The prosecutor showed my clean record and Baxter's glucose reading of 41. Would you do it again? She asked. Every time. Wednesday, Gary took the stand. He showed logs of 17 safety complaints he'd filed over 2 years. Everyone marked resolved by the principal with no actual changes made. I was ordered to unplug those machines at noon, Gary said. I knew it could kill students. I did it anyway for months because I needed my job. I'll never forgive myself for waiting so long to act. The principal's lawyer objected to everything, but the evidence stayed. Friday, the jury came to our school. They saw the broken vending machine, still not fixed. The glass still there. Evidence now. They saw the nurse's office that used to close at 2. They saw the condemned cafeteria, the principal's old office with his golf trophies still on the shelf. One juror shook her head when she saw the cafeteria. Even fixed up, you could see where the black mold had been. Monday, more parents testified. The mom of the girl with allergies could barely speak, describing finding her daughter unconscious after eating contaminated cafeteria food because outside food was banned. The dad who lost his daughter was worse. He held up pictures of her funeral and just cried. Several jury members wiped their eyes. Wednesday, the defense tried to save the principal. They said he just followed district policy, dealt with budget cuts, tried to maintain order. Then the prosecutor showed his bank records. Deposits every month that matched what the food company saved by serving garbage. Money straight to his personal account. The principal's lawyer asked for a break. When they came back, he looked defeated. Friday afternoon, closing arguments. The prosecutor reminded everyone that Baxter was 9 points from death while the principal played golf. 9 points. The defense argued this was scapegoating one man for system-wide failures. The jury left to decide. We waited. Monday at 4 p.m., after 6 hours of waiting, they called us back. Baxter's mom held Baxter's hand so tight her knuckles were white. Gary paced by the door. My stomach hurt. Guilty on all counts. The principal's face went completely white. Criminal negligence, theft, falsifying safety reports. He faced real prison time. Baxter's mom cried. Gary nodded slowly. I felt relief, but no happiness. This wasn't something to celebrate. A week later, Monday morning, the civil lawsuit settled. The families would split $3.2 million. But more important were the required changes. New policies, safety audits every month, emergency training for all teachers. Real change finally, written into legal documents. Wednesday at lunch, school felt almost normal. Kids ate when they needed to. Baxter kept glucose tablets right on his desk. The girl with allergies brought her allergy-free lunch without hiding it. But we all remembered. We all knew how close we'd come. Friday afternoon, Dr. Williams started something she called Wellness Wednesdays. Students could come talk about any health needs without judgment. 50 kids showed up to the first one. I looked around that room and saw how many kids had been suffering in silence, afraid to speak up about basic human needs like food and medicine. 2 weeks later on Monday, Gary got called to the main office. We thought something was wrong, but Dr. Williams was smiling. The state wants to give you an award, she told him, for moral courage in education. Gary shook his head. The real heroes are the kids who survived despite us adults failing them. But when they gave him the award at an assembly, everyone stood and clapped anyway. He deserved it. Wednesday afternoon, the principal got sentenced. 3 years, 2 suspended. He'd serve 1 year in minimum security prison. Outside the courthouse, he still claimed he was a scapegoat. Baxter's mom told the reporters standing there, 1 year for almost killing children. The system still protects its own. Monday after the sentencing, something unexpected happened. Other schools started calling, asking for help reforming their policies. They wanted to avoid their own lawsuits. Baxter and I made a presentation about medical warning signs. We'd become experts on neglect without meaning to. Now we taught adults what they should have already known. Wednesday, we visited another middle school. A girl in the back raised her hand. What if our principal won't listen? Baxter answered without hesitation. Document everything. Tell your parents. Call lawyers if you have to. And if someone's dying, break whatever rule you need to break. Suspensions heal. Death doesn't. The teacher looked uncomfortable, but she didn't disagree. Friday morning brought the biggest news yet. The governor signed Baxter's law requiring all schools to accommodate medical dietary needs and keep nurses until dismissal. At the signing ceremony, Baxter had to speak. His voice was steady this time. No kid should have to choose between going to school and staying alive. This law shouldn't even be special. It should just be common sense. The governor shook his hand. Cameras flashed, but Baxter looked tired, not triumphant. Monday afternoon, we tried to return to normal teenage life. Baxter joined the debate team. Turned out nearly dying made him less afraid of public speaking. I focused on my grades and started working on college applications. The girl with allergies started a cooking club for kids with dietary restrictions, teaching safe recipes. We were trying to just be kids again, but we couldn't forget. Wednesday, Gary's daughter visited from college. She was studying to become a pediatric endocrinologist like Baxter's mom. Dad called me crying when Baxter almost died, she told us. He said he couldn't let another parent lose their diabetic kid. That's when he decided to risk his job. Gary looked embarrassed, but we understood. He'd been a dad first, employee second. Friday in biology, Mrs. Squelch assigned an essay about when breaking rules is justified. She looked right at me when she explained the assignment. Sometimes breaking rules is the most moral choice you can make, she said. I wrote about that Wednesday, about choosing friendship over authority, about how a vending machine mattered less than a human life. She gave me an A+ and wrote, "Thank you for teaching me this lesson," in red pen. 2 weeks later, the district started surprise safety inspections at all schools. They found problems everywhere. Emergency exits chained shut, expired medicines in nurse offices, policies that nobody had questioned because they'd always been that way. Each discovery proved we'd been right to fight, but it also showed how many kids were still in danger. Wednesday after school, a woman stopped me in the parking lot. She had a little boy with her, maybe 13. "Are you the one who broke the vending machine?" she asked. I nodded, not sure if she was angry. She started crying. "My son has type 1 diabetes. He starts here next fall. Because of what you did, I don't have to worry about him dying at school. Her son looked embarrassed by his mom's tears. Baxter's hands shaking while testifying makes me wonder how many other kids had moments like his that nobody ever heard about because they stayed quiet, or things worked out okay by luck. I just said, he'll be okay now. We made sure of it. Friday marked almost a year since that terrible Wednesday. Baxter's blood sugar stayed stable. The vending machines hummed all day. The nurse worked until 5. Kids brought whatever food they needed. What had once seemed revolutionary was now just normal, the way it always should have been. The anniversary itself came on a gray Friday morning. Dr. Williams had declared it a day of remembrance, not celebration. There was nothing to celebrate about kids dying from preventable neglect. We gathered by the flagpole at 10 a.m. The whole school was there, even teachers who usually stayed in their rooms during assemblies. The boy whose sister died stood in front with a framed photo of Destiny. 3 other families held pictures too. Kids from other schools who died from the same dangerous policies. Dr. Williams stepped forward with a paper in her hands. Today we remember Destiny Washington, age 13, Marcus Chen, age 14, Aaliyah Brooks, age 12, Samuel Martinez, age 15. Each name hung in the air. Real kids who should have been alive. Gary walked forward with a shovel and a small tree. This oak will grow strong, he said, like these kids should have. He dug the hole himself, refusing help. When he planted the tree, his hands shook. I knew he was thinking about his own daughter, how close she'd come to being one of those names. Baxter spoke last. His voice was steady, but his eyes were wet. I survived because someone broke a rule to save me, he said, looking at me. These kids died because nobody broke rules for them. We live with that. We carry them with us. Every glucose tablet I take, every safe meal we eat, it's because they couldn't. After the ceremony, kids went back to class quietly, but something had shifted. We all understood the weight of what we'd changed. Monday afternoon, I got an email that made my hands shake. College acceptance. Early admission to State University. The essay that got me in was titled, "The Day I Chose Breaking Glass Over Following Rules." Baxter got his acceptance the same day. Pre-med track at the same school. We're gonna be roommates, he said, but his smile was tired. We both knew why we'd chosen these paths. Him to become a doctor who'd actually listen. Me to become a lawyer who'd fight these battles legally next time. The girl with allergies got into the nutrition program at Central State. I'm gonna make sure school food never hurts kids again, she told us at lunch. Wednesday, during our last safety committee meeting, I looked around the room at the younger students. They had new battles, fighting for mental health counselors who actually helped, wheelchair ramps that worked, bathrooms for trans kids. The same fight, different faces. A freshman named Maria raised her hand. What if they don't listen to us either? I thought about it. You document everything. You find adults who care. They exist, even if they're hiding. You protect each other. And if someone's in danger, you do whatever it takes to keep them safe, even if it means getting in trouble. Baxter added, the trouble you get in for saving someone is temporary. Death is forever. The younger kids took notes like we were teaching them sacred knowledge. Maybe we were. Friday afternoon brought news that made my stomach turn. The principal was getting out of prison early. Only served 4 months of his year sentence for good behavior. He was already planning to move to Arizona, start fresh where nobody knew his name. But then Gary showed me his phone. Look at this. A Facebook group called Parents Against Ryan Lutz had 15,000 members. Every time he applied for a job anywhere near kids, they'd know. They'd call, they'd email, they'd make sure everyone knew what he'd done. He'll never work in education again, Gary said with satisfaction. 2 weeks later, the principal tried to start a consulting business about school security and discipline. His first scheduled talk at a conference in Phoenix got canceled after hundreds of parents called. His second got canceled too, then the third. He posted an angry rant online about cancel culture and mob justice. Baxter's mom responded with a simple comment. My son's blood sugar was 41. The post got 50,000 shares. Monday morning, graduation practice. We walked through the ceremony in the gym, learning where to stand and when to walk. Mrs. Squelch was helping organize it, making sure kids with disabilities had proper access, checking that everyone had water. She pulled me aside after. I want you to know I'm leaving teaching after this year. My heart sank. She'd actually changed, become one of the good ones. I'm going to law school, she continued. Education law, to fight these battles in court instead of classrooms. I smiled. You'll be good at it. I learned from the best, she said, looking at me. A 17-year-old who knew right from wrong better than I did. Wednesday was the last real day of classes. Teachers mostly just signed yearbooks and talked about summer. But in what used to be biology, Mrs. Squelch had one more lesson. She pulled up a slide showing the broken vending machine, glass everywhere, my bloody handprints on the remaining glass. This is what moral courage looks like, she told her juniors. It's messy, it's scary, it gets you in trouble, but it's right. A kid in the back raised his hand. Did he really get suspended for saving someone's life? 3 days of in-school suspension, I said from the doorway where I was returning a textbook. Worth every second. Friday was senior skip day, but Baxter and I went to school anyway. We sat in the empty cafeteria eating real food. Chicken that looked like chicken. Vegetables that had color. Fruit that wasn't brown. Remember when we used to dream about edible food? Baxter asked. Remember when you almost died because of a vending machine? I responded. We both laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that comes when something's too heavy to cry about anymore. Gary walked through with his mop bucket, even though the floor was clean. Old habits. You boys ready for college? He asked. Ready to leave this place, Baxter said. Gary nodded. Change it from the outside. That's what real reform looks like. You survive the system, then you fix it for the ones coming after. Monday morning, 3 days before graduation, Dr. Williams called an assembly. She announced the new Gary Hutchinson Memorial Fund. Money for any student who needed medical supplies the school didn't provide. Gary turned red. I'm not dead yet, no, Dr. Williams said, but your courage lives on in these kids. We're honoring that while you're here to see it. The fund already had $30,000 from anonymous donors. Well, anonymous to everyone else. I recognized Baxter's mom's handwriting on the first check. Wednesday afternoon, our last safety committee meeting ever. The younger students had elected their own leaders. They had plans, big ones. Mental health reform, disability access, LGBTQ protections. The fight would continue without us. I handed over the folder of everything we'd documented. Every violation, every complaint, every near miss that could have been another tragedy. Don't let them forget, I told the new president, a sophomore named Alex who used a wheelchair and had been fighting for working elevators all year. They want to forget. They want to pretend it never never happened. Don't let them. Alex nodded solemnly. We won't forget. We can't afford to. Thursday night was senior awards. I won something called the Citizen Leadership Award, which apparently they created just for me. The description read, for a student who chose conscience over compliance. Baxter won the Resilience Award. The girl with allergies got Student Advocate of the Year. But the biggest moment came when Gary walked on stage. Dr. Williams had convinced the school board to give him an honorary diploma, the one he never got because he dropped out at 16 to work and support his sick mom. The entire auditorium stood and applauded. Gary cried. His daughter was there, home from college, crying too. This is for every kid who needed help and got it, he said into the microphone. And for every kid who needed help and didn't. We failed you. We're sorry. We're trying to do better. Friday afternoon, the day before graduation, I cleaned out my locker. At the bottom was a crumpled glucose tablet wrapper from that Wednesday. I'd kept it without meaning to. Evidence of the worst day that became the most important day. Baxter found me holding it. You saved my life, he said simply. You would have done the same for me. Yeah, he said, but you actually did it. We stood there in the empty hallway where I'd once run with stolen candy and bleeding hands, desperate to save my best friend. The same hallway where kids now walked freely with whatever food they needed. That night I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow was graduation. The end of one fight and the beginning of another. College applications had asked about challenges we'd overcome. I'd written about systemic indifference, about how the most dangerous thing in school wasn't violence or drugs. It was adults who didn't care. The admissions officer had called me personally. This is the most powerful essay we've read in 20 years, she'd said. We need students like you. But I didn't feel powerful. I felt tired. 17 years old and already exhausted from fighting for basic human dignity. Saturday morning came bright and hot. Graduation was outside on the football field. Parents filled the bleachers. I saw Baxter's mom in the third row with a camera. My parents sat in front, proud and still a little confused about how their rule-following kid became a revolutionary. The ceremony started with the national anthem, then speeches from valedictorian and salutatorian about bright futures and endless possibilities. Normal graduation stuff that felt weird after our year. Maria's question about what to do if they don't listen got me thinking. How do kids learn which rules to break and which to follow? Then Dr. Williams took the podium. This class is different, she said. This class changed everything. They fought for their lives and won. They taught us that sometimes breaking rules is the most moral thing you can do. They showed us that student voices matter more than adult comfort. She looked directly at our section. You leave here warriors. Don't ever forget that. When they called my name, I walked across the stage in a daze. Mrs. Squelch handed me my diploma. She was crying. Thank you, she whispered, for teaching me what courage looks like. Gary stood at the end of the stage in his maintenance uniform, giving every graduate a thumbs up. When I passed, he saluted, an actual salute. After the ceremony, families took pictures and cried and laughed. The old principal's name never came up. It was like he'd been erased from the school's history. His photo had been removed from the principal's wall. His policies were gone. His legacy was nothing but a cautionary tale. But the photo of Destiny now hung in the main hallway with a plaque, in memory of all students who deserved better. We promised to do better. We stood there, graduates now, looking at our school one last time. We'd survived. We'd changed things. But we were different now, marked by knowing how easily schools can kill through not caring, and how hard you must fight for basic human dignity. Well, that's it from me today. Really appreciate you letting me wonder about stuff with you all. Subscribe for more content like this.